welcome again to Tibalt's Apprentice. I have Enrique here joining me again. Thank you very much for coming back.
Happy to be here.
And as a matter of fact, this is specifically the topic we plan on covering today was something you brought up as we were closing out the last session. May have been off camera, but that's okay. You brought up good plans, or rather good commander decks as opposed to bad commander decks. Or rather, you put it better when you said competitive decks.
Yes.
Compared to casual decks.
Compared to casual.
So, what were your thoughts on that?
All right. So, in any given play group, the members of that play group should have a wide range of power levels for their commander decks.
Sure.
Where if you have someone in your play group that has nothing but top tier competitive decks,
right?
Why would you want to play against that person? Like if you're trying to play around with different deck ideas and you just get stomped out like within 5 turns.
Right. So I looked at this as a Sisyphean task for me to try to come up with, because you asked me what was my best, my most competitive deck as opposed to my most casual deck. I've got like at least 18 decks, 18 commander decks.
That's a lot of commander decks.
So that's, I know other people have more and some probably have less. A couple, it doesn't, some of mine are duplicates. I think my Analia, I have a pre-con one that I haven't changed many changes to, and then I have one that I actually play. I have the Reaper King deck. One of those was a gift, so I didn't make any changes to that one. And then I have, obviously I like the Reaper King so much that I then made my own version of the deck, or another version of it. Lucky enough to have some planeswalkers to throw in there, some undead planeswalkers, but that's another story for another time. So anyhow, those 18 things, how do I narrow those down? Well, you picked 2 of your decks.
Yeah.
Did you already have those in mind, or did you...
Those 2 decks in mind?
Yeah, did you already have those in mind as your competitive and your casual, or... It's okay if you did, because I do this to my wife all the time on our podcast or whatever. I'll spring a question on her, and I fully know the answer, and I've got everything planned out. It's not really fair. In this case, did you already have your mindset on kind of which ones were yours, or... You did?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I didn't know how to approach the subject, because I look at them, and when I look at the decks, I don't think any of mine are actually competitive. So we almost have to define terms as to what we think of as competitive and what, because it's very much a lot about perspective. And I'll just say it now. As far as I'm concerned, my perspective, I don't believe that you would play anything other than a tuned deck. Tuned deck being somewhere between competitive and casual. And that's just my perception of the decks that you play and stuff. So looking at your decks, I'm interested to see what you chose as your competitive and which ones your casual. When I tried to decide, the things that I looked at was, does the deck win? Is it fun to play? Is it hard to win with a deck? Or is it easy to win with a deck? Can I pull just one card and so I've got the game locked now, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or do I have to assemble all those pieces?
You do have a deck like that, by the way.
I do. I do. I have one like that. And then also, do I cast my commander? Do you figure into that, as to whether it's competitive or casual, do you play the commander? Is that what makes it or whatever? Man, that was tough for me to weed them down or whatever. So what do you think of as a competitive deck?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I do gravitate towards making tuned decks, not necessarily, super competitive or super casual. Even though I do have what I consider somewhat casual decks, but what goes into making a competitive deck is overall, 2 things: focus and overall individual card level.
Okay.
So, the power levels of the individual cards in your deck.
Sure.
If you're playing Black Lotuses and Moxes and stuff like that.
I was going to say, if you look at the other side of the board and 7 out of the 10 lands are dual lands, I'm assuming I'm playing against a competitive player at this point.
Right, exactly.
Gotcha. So I actually need to excuse myself for 1 second before planning on my part. I have another stack of notes here that I actually need to refer to. But keep them entertained. Yay! Let me see here, folks. That may be safe for the blooper reel, or maybe it'll just stay in at this point. I don't care. So, I said I had another stack of notes here. Well, I had this cool thing that was a gift here for my Shattergang Brothers notebook. This was a gift from you, of course. Thank you. I appreciate that. It tells you it's been a while ago, but at this point I was losing at Commander, or I felt like I was losing. Because it's easy for me to remember the beats, but I can't remember the wins.
Really?
The wins just, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because for me, generally speaking, it's about the things that happen in the game or whatever. I enjoy seeing combos go off that I've never seen before, even if it's somebody else's.
Yeah.
I take great pride in the fact that in one game I cost the table 84 points of life.
I remember that.
Yeah, I think something like 4 Direfleet Ravagers going off, one right after the other.
Yeah.
Like 23 or 24, that was my life, but anyhow, so I enjoy seeing things like that. So I started keeping track of my decks and how often and where they won or lost or whatever.
Oh, wow.
So at some point, I decided, and I think I said this the other night and stuff too when we talked, which is like, if you're playing for fun, you're not going to lose.
Right.
But it can be frustrating if you constantly come up on the bottom. It just gets that way. So anyhow, I think I've gone off the topic or whatever. Continue with what you were saying about tuned as opposed to competitive decks.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny that you mentioned, like win rates and loss rates and stuff like that. So when it comes to like tuned decks, tuned decks, you're gonna get your good beats in every once in a while.
Sure.
And then a lot of times you're gonna get beaten on. And so I think of my decks kind of falling along that spectrum, where especially in our play group, we kind of know like what our decks do and stuff like that. And so even though there's a focus, there's a plan that wants to be enacted during play, chances are like maybe 50% or so, I'm gonna lose that game. Because the tuning has been done, and you guys know kind of what's going on with the deck, and I think I only have like maybe 1 or 2 decks that kind of win out of nowhere. One being the Nekazar deck. But the Nekazar deck
I was gonna say, as soon as Nekazar hits the field there, it's kind of like, get him! But here, that brings up a thing that I was just thinking about, the fact that, like, have you ever considered putting Nekazar in the deck and using somebody else as a commander? Or does that not the focus? I mean, do you want to play Nekazar as the commander? Or did that ever cross your mind? Has that crossed your mind? Have you thought about doing that?
I've seen that deck idea, happen before, on like another YouTube channel. And I don't want to do that.
Okay. He's there to be the commander.
Right.
Okay.
And he's kind of like,
okay.
he allows me to say draw 2, take 2. Like
famous last words. Yes, I'm familiar with that phrase. I've heard that a few times.
And so if I don't have him as the commander, then am I really playing my Nekazar deck?
Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So let's talk then a little bit about casual. Some of the decks that I have that I went through, I think of as casual because they win over time. The way I look at it, if I win, I'm going to say end game. Well, what part's end game? But I mean, if I'm like mid game or later, to me that's a casual deck. But we've kind of determined that if we were watching other videos and stuff, my goal is 20 points of damage in the first 5 turns. That doesn't apply necessarily to commander, but go. I've got the chaos, I've got the Rakdos colors on me. So anyhow, we brought up, we brought up, or rather you had mentioned something about, what is it, let me see here, I should know her name by now. That's something else too, that I constantly play these decks and I don't even know. Freyalise. Yes, my Freyalise deck. I don't think of that as being that.
Okay, that commander is awesome.
Here's the problem. Here's my problem, my mindset with it. I have a hard time getting out. I'll get in a rut and I'll start thinking this one thing. And because I went to the store and she was the only commander left, I couldn't find any other commander to buy. I think of her as being like, meh, she's just okay. No, I've changed it. I mean, I've tweaked it and I've, gone elves with it. Actually, I've gone elves and elementals, so there's a couple of different themes going on in there.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that is a...
No, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Okay,
I'll tell you why.
Okay, why?
Okay, because, you have your commander.
Right.
And, Freyalise, does things that support the deck.
Right.
Now, the deck doesn't revolve around Freyalise at all.
Right.
So, elves, being elves, like just jam out onto the board.
Right.
Friggin' wide, army coming at you. And then Freyalise will come in and be like, okay, I don't like that enchantment. I don't like that artifact. Okay. Let's do a +1 so that you generate more mana. Like,
right.
That sort of stuff.
And or, I need a couple extra cards.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. It's interesting. So okay. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to talk about? So what's your casual commander? What's your?
Okay, so yeah, my casual commander, I think is my Nekazar deck.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, see, I see.
Yes.
But that's just me. It's like that's. Oh man.
And the reason why I say that is because even though, and it might not be casual for much longer. But
okay, fair enough.
But the reason why I call it, my casual commander deck is because, it has a focus and it wants to do a certain thing and maybe come out of nowhere and destroy the whole table.
Right, all at
the
once.
same time.
Yes.
But the individual cards' power levels, not as high as some other decks that I have.
Okay. It's an interesting way to look at that. I hadn't considered that as far as the power levels, but also having said that, I generally, when I look at most, if not all of my decks, well, no, we're going to say most, because I do have some expensive cards. No power 9s, nothing like that. But generally, I'm playing budget decks. I've gone out of my way in a lot of cases to specifically get budget decks, because going back to that example of playing a dual land card, well, a Stone Rain, a Decimator, it's going to take care of that, you know what I mean? So there is something to combat that. So I don't look at the power levels of the cards. But then I'm generally trying more and more to look for cards that are synergistic, and I'm trying to learn that. I'm trying to force myself to think that way.
Oh, that's awesome. Like, synergy, we talked about in another episode, card drawing is like one of the most, powerful things you can do in a game of Magic.
Right.
I think the second most powerful thing in a deck is cards that synergize together.
Right.
And just combo off and do crazy things.
Okay. Well, do you want to say what your competitive deck is, what your casual deck is? Or you want me to reveal mine? Does it matter?
Well, yeah, we can talk about my more competitive deck.
Okay, what's your more competitive deck?
So, I actually forgot his name. So, oh, that's right. So, my more competitive deck is Mizzix of the Magnus.
Oh, yes.
And so, the reason why I say this is the more competitive deck is because if Okay, it's focused, but the power level of the cards I have in this deck are a bit higher. Is a bit higher as well.
Okay.
So this deck, as you know, revolves around taking turns, just taking as many turns as possible, one after the other.
Right.
Copying those spells, taking more turns after more turns, and then finally finishing someone off with a threat.
Okay. I was going to say, I too have a Mizzix Dex. Doesn't work the same way, but it does work.
Yeah.
And her mechanic of being able to get cast spells with because of extra counters and stuff is just absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. So, looking at my decks, the casual deck that I actually have listed, well, it was a split between two of them, so I'm cheating. I'm doing multiples here. But Yosava Dragonclaw is my casual deck.
Oh,
I think of that as a casual deck. One, because it's a budget build. Two, the fact that I'm not really, but this is my fault too, maybe. I'm not focused on how I'm going to win. I can have a lot of fun taking people's creatures out.
Yeah.
Taking them and sacking them, sack outlets for free, absolutely awesome. But I had a split between that and my casual deck being Wart the Raid Mother. So Wart the Raid Mother is another budget build with a few tweaks to it. It was something that I saw on another channel and decided that I was going to build that. So I got everything that I needed in the deck, except not paying attention. I chose, when I saw tokens, I don't need tokens. They were token generating cards. I didn't buy those. I didn't get those. So I've got like 10 slots in the deck that is like, I put it together. It's like, hey, this is at 99 with a commander. I got like 80 cards here. What did I do wrong? Afterwards, I go. So I slid other things in there. So it's slightly tweaked from the build there. But another fun deck that allowed me to do 54 points of damage when I started the turn with just 8 land on the board. And I was able to cast 3 fireballs. And they were all at you again. I'm sorry, I feel terrible. Nah, I don't feel that bad. But anyhow, but it was one of those things where the deck just comboed out in a way that I didn't even expect, and suddenly I won. Well, I won like a next turn or two later or whatever. But it was one of those things that was a surprise to me, as it was to anybody else. You see 8 land on the board, you're not that worried about somebody finishing you. But yeah, I think about that as casual because it's not as focused, and I don't go in it thinking I'm going to win. But you know what? I don't even think that I'm going to win when I play with my competitive deck. That's just part of the mindset and stuff too.
So which one is your competitive deck?
So again, I cheated. I've got two. So I think my Analia is a competitive deck.
Is that the wizard?
That's the wizard. That's the and this. But here's the thing. I almost want to say it's more to do with her special ability and not having to come out of the command zone. I don't think I've ever cast her.
Awesome.
I've never cast her that, but her ability to double all of my enter the battlefield effects, it fit the criteria as far as I was concerned of a fun win, just coming out of nowhere. Well, and it also has the Wanderwine Prophets and stuff. You've probably seen that talk to death everywhere else or whatever, but the single card combo, I mean, you need more than one card, but yeah, the infinite turns, if that works out, that's absolutely awesome. So that can come out of nowhere. But the other one, and I mentioned it earlier, is the Direfleet Ravager has done work for me, just lowering everybody else at the table's life totals down to a manageable level to allow me to suddenly finish the game out of nowhere and stuff.
Right.
That, I think, is my competitive deck. The other one that I have listed here, though I'm going to say Adalia is the one, is my Ghoul Caller Gisa deck. And that's my budget, arguably, zombie deck. Because WoW, and it kind of goes with Freyalise in the fact that it allows zombies can go wide, you can get a big army, And it has black, so it has the board wipes if necessary, and it has the gray merchant
Oh, yes.
that can come in suddenly out of nowhere and boom, everybody's life total is just like shot from that point.
Yeah.
But Analia, I think, is my competitive deck.
I agree with that.
You do?
Oh yeah. That deck is disgusting.
So here's the one that I wished, and we didn't talk about this, but as an honorable mention or whatever, I wish my Zedru deck worked better.
Oh.
And I don't know if that's, again, this is probably my fault. I'm probably not focused or playing the right cards or whatever. I wish I've had that deck. I don't know if that was my first one. I think Kalia was my first commander deck. But Zedru was the next one that I got or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was another one that was a gift or whatever. But I've wanted that to work. I've wanted to play the political aspect of it. I've seen on other channels the importance of playing political game at the table.
Absolutely. I mean, if anything, Zedru is
the deck for that, for sure. But I haven't been doing it right up until now or whatever. I think that's something that I need to put effort into to make it work, if I'm going to make it work. Or, you know, it's like, do I pull it apart and use those cards somewhere else? But you know what? Her cards are so specific to her abilities that the cards in that deck, like, really wouldn't go into another commander deck anywhere. Like, I don't have anything, at least I don't have anything built at this time.
Right.
That would do that.
I think with that deck, if you had a way to help yourself turtle up,
Yeah.
I think it would go a long way.
I think that's it. Anything else that you had to say about commanders, about competitive versus casual at this point?
Let's see. So, yeah, definitely. So, competitive versus casual. When you sit down with your play group, you kind of have to agree on, you know, which deck are you pulling out. Like, if so, you know, to go back to the first example,
okay.
You know, someone playing nothing but competitive decks and like smashing everybody's faces in. And not that they can't be overcome,
right?
You know, especially
when then it becomes arch enemy.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. So, but for the purpose of you know, having fun for everyone, you got to agree on, you know, having like a less powered up deck. You know.
I gotcha. If so, I've thought about that before, and I've thought about. So my suggestion was, what if you roll a dice and you went in the order of the dice roll, and you reveal your commander in the order of the dice roll? That was my thought as to. But that didn't fly. Didn't seem like a good suggestion. What do you think about that as a suggestion for keeping the power level, or do you think then somebody's just going to abuse that and then just go straight for the kill every time?
Yeah, you know, it depends on the play group.
Because I guess because that's the thing. Then, are you, when that information is revealed, do you choose a different commander at that point? At this point, a lot of times when we play, we all kind of just pull out our commander that we want to play.
Yeah.
Unless somebody pulls out something really powerful, and then sometimes you'll hear somebody go,
yeah.
"Oh, you're playing that one. Well, I'm going to this one then."
Switcheroo. Yeah,
so
definitely.
it's a tough one. But anyhow, so what do you think? Is there any way of overcoming that other than just a group discussion of like, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you planning? What's your goal?"
Yeah, I don't think I don't think it's necessary to discuss what your goals or plans are as far as what your deck's trying to do. But
no. Well, you know, as far as what the game is and stuff, because of the opportunity, at least for us, when we play, we generally get to play one night a week, and we have a limited time to play. I mean, we all have day jobs and so on. So sometimes we only get one commander game in that entire night, and if you are out in the first 30 minutes, it sucks butt to watch somebody else play for 2.5 hours or more while you're just sitting there.
Yeah, maybe there is an advantage to having one person playing a powerful deck. Because then
It speeds you.
yeah, it speeds the game up, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So I don't know. Anyhow, getting back to that, what are you thinking? Is there a solution other than
Yeah, just discussion.
just discussion? That's it. I agree. Well, I think that probably closes out this topic. There's probably a million other different directions that we could go with this, and a lot more to talk about.
Absolutely.
But that's probably plenty for now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.